nobody knows what happened last night, especially me. And yeah, that's all I want to say about it. First of all, thank you all for coming, because I know what happened last night and what you guys were doing. I hope you had fun. It's always a crazy Wednesday in Davos. Secondly, I want to thank the organizers around the tech side to get all this thing done. And then more importantly, I want to thank these amazing people that responded to an email saying, would you like to commit your time in a very crazy, crazy schedule to come and speak on an oceans panel? And we're going to combine it with an oceans and conservation panel. 185 people signed up for this thing. At some point, they'll be around here somewhere. I'm sure they're probably sleeping or getting up or trying to work out where this is. I'm going to be downstairs trying to find that. The important part is 189 people have committed to something. This will be filmed and taped, and it will be going out to them as well. My name is Rakesh Chand. Various hats in this room today. At this moment, I'm representing the Oceans Exchange, which is now 12 years in running. We have some previous winners here. We've had some previous winners in the past as well. It's one of the biggest oceans projects there is now. I don't have any slides. The only thing we've announced at the board meeting in November, which is now public, we've made over 3 billion in terms of the money in our oceans related work. And that's now the updated figure from November's board meeting. That's the only thing I want to say. You can go online and find oceansexchange.org. You can communicate with them, send a message, say you're at the Oceans panel in Davos, say to Millie, I would like to have a conversation with you, if it interests any of you, and then come in October to Oceans Exchange, which is the largest oceans event in the world right now. Okay, it's 13 years in, the number is over 3 billion, and that's it. I want to thank all of you for coming. I will chase the other people up. I'm going to hand you over to our amazing moderator, Mandeep, who's back again to do all this. And sincerely, big thanks to all our panelists as well. The conservation panel will be in the same room afterwards as well. Please stay. If you need to leave, you can leave. It's no issue. We know scheduling being what it is. So for now, I hand it over to Mandeep. Thank you very much, sincerely.
Thank you, Rakesh. Literally handed over the microphone. Rakesh is the advisor and board member of Oceans Exchange. And oceans, as you know, are basically our lifeline, hence the title of the panel. Can I ask how many of you actually work in this space? All right, so a third, if that. So with that in mind, could I have each of you, please, Ina, starting with you, to introduce yourself in the best way you wish?
I'm Ina Braverman. I'm the founder and CEO of EcoWave Power. Our company developed a unique, innovative technology for generation of clean electricity from ocean and sea waves. And what's unique about the technology is that we basically did it in a very different way. 99% of the developers of wave energy went to the offshore, which means 4 or 5 kilometers into the sea, and we basically attached to existent man-made structures like piers, breakwaters, jetties, making it much easier, simpler, and more cost-efficient.
So I want this to be an interactive session. Thank you. If there's anything, we don't need comments necessarily, but if there's anything you don't know about or would like more information about, feel free. We can make it as interactive as we can until the end, which obviously will always come very fast. So without further ado, Chris, thank you for running across to us. He made it just in the nick of time. And I think that's possibly because of the scale of what you do. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Oakes. I'm the CEO of ReefGen. I'm a marine biologist by training, and what we're really focused on at ReefGen is massively scaling nature-based solutions with technology. So we make underwater robots that plant coral reefs and seagrass meadows, and we can do it for a 30th to a 70th of the cost if you're sending divers down. So that's how we're driving ocean restoration.
So I know this is just an introduction. However, I just want you to picture Ina's working on waves. Chris has just said robots are regenerating the reefs, right? And seagrass. I always want to say seaweed, but seagrass.
May I take a moment?
Yes.
So just to clarify, there's seaweed. Seaweeds are kelp. Those are algae. Seagrasses are amazing. They're flowering plants that once lived on land and went back into the ocean. So they flower every year and they drop seeds and they have root structures that store 20% of the carbon that the ocean absorbs. Seagrass meadows are responsible for that because of those roots, those rhizomes.
So if anyone dives, anyone goes scuba diving? Right. So I dive also, and in certain parts of the world where it's quite shallow, you actually can see the seagrass. But mostly you don't, right? It's very thick. And
if you dive in coral reefs, you will also see seagrass. A healthy coral reef is healthy because of the seagrass meadows that are going to butt right up against the reef. If you don't
Perfect.
have seagrass, then you don't have healthy coral reefs.
Thank you. Speaking of coral reefs, Josephine, please.
Thank you. I'm Josephine. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Reefs. We are a Swiss startup based in Zurich, a spin-off of the ETH. And we are restoring degraded coral reef structure. So we developed a novel artificial reef made out of clay, which is 3D printed. And the idea is where coral reefs have, been flourishing, but have been destroyed through to dynamite fishing or climate change, that we restore the structure as sustainably and as complex as well as natural reefs as possible.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, if we do have a fifth mic, gentleman at the back, no, we don't. Okay, thank you both for sharing. Thank you. So.
Yeah, hello, good morning. Michael Adams. I founded Ocean Assets Group 8 years ago. And we do two things, maybe to simplify. We advise multilateral banks like the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, European Investment Bank on strategies to finance their enormous ocean and coastal assets, and to help the maritime industries in regions around the world become more sustainable. And that supports everything that my co-panelists are doing in their focused way. And the second thing is we run a platform called Blue Deals, which lists projects in the developing countries that are in the blue economy, as we say, that have a good business model and are raising capital that could be grants, debt, or equity. And we screen them and present them to investors. And we're also creating from that a facility to finance the zero-emission shipping in ports around the world.
Thank you so very much. It's really interesting because Rakesh said, oh, Mandeep's back again. I am a BBC foreign correspondent, but I'm also the author of The Values Compass. And the reason I'm back again is because when we're thinking about climate, when we're thinking about our planet, when we're thinking about the fact that the temperatures are warmer now and the snow is melting, all of this is actually so connected to the oceans. You almost can't have any conversation regarding climate if you don't think of the oceans. And in fact, when we're breathing, every second breath, the oxygen we're getting is because of the oceans. So I don't think there's a more fundamental conversation we could be having. That's why I'm back again. And I think if we think about the values, like why are these people, they've left whatever they're doing, started 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 11 years, I mean, it's not a very new... It's a very new subject area, and they've pivoted their lives for it. Tell us what's driving you, what's the ultimate aim? Thank you, Ina.
I think what driven me to establish EcoWave Power is my personal story. I live in Israel, but I wasn't born there. I was actually born in Ukraine in 1986. And 2 weeks after I was born, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor exploded, which was the largest nuclear disaster in history. And I was one of the babies that got hurt from the negative effects of the explosion. I actually got a respiratory arrest and a clinical death. So my mom approached my crib, she looked down, I was pale and blue and not breathing. And she ran to my dad and she was like, my baby is dead, like what do I do? And she was so shocked, she forgot she's a nurse. My dad reminded her she's a nurse, and then she gave me a mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and actually saved my life. So I don't remember any of that. Obviously, I was a baby, but growing up, my parents and my family would always say, wow, it's so cool, you got a second chance in life, you should really do something good with it. And, growing up, when I discovered about wave energy, which according to the World Energy Council can produce twice the amount of electricity that the world produces now, I understood now that's a great thing to do with my second chance in life. And that's really been my passion since I established EcoWave Power in 2011.
Fantastic. If there's one story I'm going to take back home, it's this. And that's actually a good point. After you're leaving here, you're going to hear so much during this week. If you just make 1 or 2 mental notes of what you've taken away, this will serve you as opposed to become part of the milieu. Chris. Tough question, right?
No, it's wonderful. I'm reflecting on your story because that is there's a parallel. We cannot accept, just like your mother didn't accept, the death of our habitats. I do not accept that we're going to lose 90% of our coral reefs by 2050. I do not accept that we are losing up to 7% of our seagrass meadows every year. We can't. We can't live in a world where these shifting baselines are acceptable. But we have to figure out how to make it financially viable. And if we're planting with our fingers, because right now that's how most people are restoring coral reefs and
Really?
seagrass meadows.
With their fingers?
We've-
Oh, yes, I guess you dive down and that's how you do it?
Divers are going down and planting with their fingers. I did this for a long time
Wow.
as a scientific diver.
Okay.
And we will never meet the scale of the problem if we're planting with our fingers. And so the way I see it is we've mechanized agriculture everywhere on the planet except underwater. And so what I'm doing is making underwater tractors. They're just not to make crops, although you can eat seagrass. They're to restore our habitats first. So that's the motivation for me. I've seen the shifting baselines over my lifetime. I've seen reefs go from vibrant, colorful reefs to nothing. I've seen seagrass meadows be there and then go away. But I've also seen them come back. The little bay that I grew up diving on as a kid got dredged. All the seagrass is wiped out. No more fish were being caught off the pier. But over my lifetime, I have seen it come back, but it took 30 years. Why wait? We could accelerate that if we actually deployed tractors to start planting day and night, and we have the technology today.
This is so visual. If you think that 70% of our planet is oceans, and I'm just a simple person, and I'm sure you have all seen the oceans, like the sea, the reefs change, right? Hands up if you have seen this, if you know exactly what he's talking about. Exactly. We've all witnessed this. And it's a little bit like, oh, well, you just think, oh, I'm not going to go there anymore. But actually, how much is going to become inhabitable? So thank you for what you're doing, Josephine.
I can just echo what my co-panelists said. We are 4 female founders in our team, and we are all passionate divers.
So unusual for female.
Unusual, and also very different backgrounds. So we have 2 marine biologists. I have a business background and 1 artist. So we really combine different perspectives to this topic. But we are all divers, and we all saw with our own eyes how coral reefs look like now. And that's why we started Reefs as well, because there's time is running out to do something, and we have to do something now, even if it's like small steps, small startups. But I think that really motivated us to take action now, and and coral reefs are so important for us, and many people don't realize it. It's a beautiful ecosystem, but they're also the most biodiverse ecosystem we have on this planet on a area based. So more than 25% of all marine life depend on them. And it's what you said. I think we can't just lose them because we don't know what the effects are. There are so much consequences which we can't even understand now. So yeah.
Because it's so important, is that why it's called reefs? What's the logic between?
It's rethinking, rebuilding, regenerating.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's much confusion sometimes on how to pronounce it, also in different languages.
Appreciate
it's
that.
complicated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I'm so enjoying Mandeep's book, the audio version. I highly recommend it, The Values Compass. Anyway.
It's very soon. That's very soon. I haven't paid
Like
him.
my friends here, I'm a diver and a sailor and lived on an island for quite a while. But so that started it. But I'm very much in the impact investing space. And this is where things have been happening in the last 5 years that are quite exciting and interesting, where we are valuing all the stories that we're telling and all the data that we have. We have massive amounts of data to prove everything that we're talking about here. But let's monetize that, because we need, what is it, 2.7, or let's round it off, $3 trillion at least dollars per year to accomplish the SDGs, of which SDG 14, the blue one, is gets less than 1% of the funding. But 90% of that money needs to come from private markets. It's not going to move there unless we monetize these positive impacts that we're having. And we're working with projects like Blue Alliance that manages 120 MPAs around the world, and enormous impacts, 1 million hectares that they're protecting of biodiversity, for instance, 15,000 that they're of livelihoods that they're improving. And they have a blended finance facility where they're paying a variable interest rate every year depending on how well they do against their benchmarks, which the investors agree with. How many mangroves have you restored? Fisheries improved, jobs created, the social and environmental ones. And so their interest rate goes down, could go to 0 if they really do a super job, which they're doing each year. Or it could rise if they're falling short of agreed impacts. And this needs to be in everything. This is intuitively, we all know that we should be rewarded for these things, not just have a story, and on the equity side as well, your companies should be valued not based on the capital asset pricing model alone, but on impact data, right? So this is what we're trying to do, and more and more of that is happening and happening here in Davos. And for me, a nerdy financial person that's passionate about the ocean, that's what's quite exciting for me to see.
I love this because we have the entire ecosystem. Michael's just described like the trillions of dollars. And then you have startups, and you have automation and robotics, and you have waves as well as, so the top and the bottom of the ocean. The whole thing here, the whole ecosystem is on this panel. Well put together, Rakesh. Thank you. I think that as we're wrapping up, because this is short, sharp, sweet, can we leave these people, each one of them, with a mic drop moment of what's the vision, what can we help you with, what's the thing that you really want to say to us? This is your moment. No pressure.
Not at all.
She's like, suddenly I can't breathe. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
you have like 1 second to give your...
No, not 1
I'm
second.
joking,
I
I'm
did say
joking.
that. 1 minute is good, right?
1
60.
minute is
Yeah,
perfect,
yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that wave energy even exists. Most people know about wind and solar energy, but actually wave energy is the least intermittent source of renewable energy. And 2/3 of the world population are living on the coastline. So with this type of population distribution, people
Sorry,
can get...
wait, that's a mic drop moment. 2/3 of the planet live on the coastline?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess. If you think about how many cities are on the coastline, that alone is phenomenal, the fact that we have wave. Okay, so that's something to write home about. Yeah.
So our company right now is the first company that actually commercializing wave energy. So we just finished the construction of and the first in history, grid-connected wave energy power station in Israel in collaboration with EDF, Électricité de France. In March, we're opening the first US project in the port of LA in collaboration with Shell, to be followed by our first Asian project in Taiwan, and then also in Portugal. So we're kind of global, going to many different places in the same time in the effort to really commercialize the power of the waves. And one more thing, 2 years ago, our company became publicly traded on NASDAQ.
Many congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Under the stock symbol WAVE, and you mentioned it a little bit, and you mentioned that it's very rare to see women. So in the energy industry, according to Ernst Young, only 5% of the executive are women. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of women in the energy industry or on NASDAQ. So I'm very, very proud of that, and thank you everybody for being here.
And may you inspire, or both of you, inspire and be role models for many other, for the rest of the other 50% of the planet to join you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
So many things to say, so little time.
Yeah, 60 seconds is good. Punch.
I'll offer one other thing. So there is an ETF that's available on the New York Stock Exchange called, the ticker is AHOY. A friend of mine started the first ocean ETF, and I would just recommend everyone look at it. It rewards the big companies that are actually doing good things for the ocean. So that's a plug for
good.
A friend.
Okay.
But the question is, how do we pay for these things, right? And so I just want to share, I'm not sure how many people are from an EU member state, but I'm really happy to share that the EU last July ratified the law for the restoration of nature. And it mandates that every member state in the EU restore 20% of their seagrass meadows by 2030. And right now they're going to have to plant with their fingers. And so and that's never going to happen, right? And so understanding that there are technologies like ReefGens that can help scale this up is really important. I'll be launching a crowdfunding philanthropic campaign to help build more grasshoppers. That's what my seagrass planting robot is called. So just check out the website. We just need to get these robots into the hands of practitioners, because seeing is believing.
And it makes many hands. Good, very good. Thank you. Josephine.
Maybe, there's so many things to say, but maybe one thing is that we are often asked, does it make any sense for you to operate because coral reefs are dying by 2050, as you said? We're expecting more than 90% to be dead, so it's one of the most vulnerable ecosystems we have on our planet. And what we see, we're still quite early stage. We have 5 projects across 5 different countries, across very different ocean basins. But what we see from the data we get, that actually we see after 3 months the first coral recruits settling on our reefs, and also in areas like the Caribbean, where there have been huge heat waves also in the past years. And they are surviving. So more than 90% survived the devastating heat wave from last year in Colombia, where where we have our first reef. And I think this gives me hope and our team that corals, one of the oldest animals we have, are actually very resilient. So
And
if we have
regenerates really fast.
yeah,
actually.
and if we have
Yes.
innovations, different approaches also combined, like ReefGen and
Yes.
us, and the whole ecosystem, like focusing on sustainable energy, because it's all depending on climate change as well to stop that. I think we can be optimistic to give ecosystems like coral reefs a bit more time to adapt.
Well, I'm really encouraged by even how the ecosystem that you're, even if I just look at this panel, is creating. And you're right, it regenerates fast, so it doesn't take long. This is worth getting involved now. Finally.
All right.
Michael.
How can I wrap up? Well, we noticed that nothing really moves unless you connect the whole value chain. So as consumers understand where the fish came from, maybe that you're eating, look at algae. And same with your energy supplies, same with shipping, drives 80% of global trade. It's an extremely dirty industry. We're trying to move towards, we have all the technology to move to zero GHG emissions. And that policy is in place from the International Maritime Organization. $6 trillion is needed to move that. Hugely profitable opportunity. But it's not happening yet because we're not being squeaky enough as consumers and as investors. So we connect with the local communities in developing countries that are really on the front lines of climate change, coastal resilience. Is existential for them. Many of these countries, whole countries will be underwater. With the big regulations and the big money. And the money connection is the one that's been slowest. People get it on the coastlines. The major policy bodies in science that are science-driven get it too. And the money gap in the middle is why I mentioned earlier blended finance and these monetizing the impacts so that you are rewarded as an investor for protecting reefs. We have 18,000 marine protected areas around the world, but 75% of them aren't protected. They're distressed assets. And that is a financial proposition that has enormous impact. That's what I want to see happen. And that's the missing link that maybe is underway right now.
Thank you. I think it's true that without finances, nothing can happen. But without you're being incentivized to invest in it, which is what you're doing, nothing would happen. And I guess the biggest missing piece is just us knowing about it and being educated about it. So hands up if you've learned something that you didn't know before. Okay, fantastic. So with that, that's the point of this, right? That's the whole point that you're here. I have to say that I'm glad that I did last year's and this year's because the room is very different. Firstly, much greater many more people, and I think that's partly because this is important and it's growing and you're growing the awareness. And so with that, I just would like us to all, if you're open to it, turn around. We're making history, but putting oceans on the map, and we'll take one picture together. Yes? Rakesh is like, really? Well, you could be in it, Rakesh, actually. You could be in it. Yeah, it's up to you.
That's a creative photo.
Yeah. But this is a moment. I mean, I'm seeing the interest grow, and it's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, he's not French. So all I wanted to say was that you being here really means a lot to us. And we have another brilliant panel right after this. So if you're able to stay, we're talking about space. We're talking about, this is where history is made. So it would be lovely to have you stay. Feel free to network with each other, and we're going to turn the room around within 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well good.